Time for off-season Snap Tackle Pod here with Dion, Clisso of PrepsKC and Mick Shaffer of KSHB 41. I don't know what to think about this, Dion.
The people have spoken.
Talk about. Can I get paid doing any of this?
Well, maybe if we get enough people, if we get enough people looking at it, maybe we can go get a sponsor.
Hats to wear.
Yes, we need to get some hats. I was efforting
to be my address. I want to get paid doing this. That's what I want.
Yes, we'll figure something out. Sick my guy Brian on that. He's good at finding money in the couch cushions, but dozens and dozens of people voted. Almost 80 people voted.
I voted.
What did you vote? What's that?
I said I voted. What is Snap Tackle Pod? Never heard of
it. There for a while I was wondering. I was like, that was early on. That was starting to pull back into the thing. But no, I was no hat this week. I'm efforting a Bishop Ward hat. Coach Duggins has kind of is sending one through one Jerome Tucker, who's an award alum and very proud and good Riddell rep who we do a lot of business with. But that's what I'm looking for now is the Bishop Ward hat. But it is the off season. There are some things to talk about. We can stay on the high school football. We can also kind of talk on other things as well as the high school basketball and wrestling season going on right now. It's not swimming. I think girls on the Kansas side, boys on the Missouri side. Not nearly as many sports in the winter.
Dion. You take it. You run with it. You let me know. You let me know questions. I'll ask you.
Yeah, high school swimming. Hey, look at it this way. If we can keep this thing going to the Summer Olympics in 2024, I'll be able. We can come on and do an hour on Olympic swimming. That's my side thing. I'll be ready to go on that. I don't know who's.
You're already looking ahead to 2024.
It happens quick when you go 5 years and then 3 years. It turns around pretty quick. They'll be in Paris in 2024.
Yeah,
the swim trials, which have been in Omaha like the last 4 or 5 times they've done it, are moving to Indianapolis this year. So Omaha,
of course, you know that. No, I'm just focused on getting through football season, college, and then the NFL. Those darn Chiefs, going to play till at least late January probably, and then after that, it's going to be a sprint to the NFL draft, which is going to be here in Kansas City in April.
I don't know what to think about that. I mean, I don't know if I would go down. I don't know, but for me personally. I mean, I don't know if I would enjoy. I mean, the last time I was down in that area with a lot of people was for the Royals Parade, which I got separated from my wife and 5-year-old, and we didn't meet back up again until it was all over because, you put 800,000 people down there with their cell phones. Nobody can get their cell phones going. So we poorly planned going into that. So needless to say, with the Chiefs Parade, we made biscuits and gravy and
it's not going to be quite that congested nor that many people, I would guess. I went to one in Vegas and it was nothing like the Royals Parade. There are a lot of people there, but there's obviously it's spread out more, and you're not just lined up and down one street like the parade. And so I get not going, but it'll be a great thing for Kansas City.
What was it like in Vegas? I mean, was it just that day? I mean, I know it's a 3-day thing, but was there anything leading up to it, or was it just those 3 days and then they were gone?
There's a lot leading up to it. Absolutely. But look, in Vegas, that was just the thing there that week, right?
Yeah.
The next week was probably some sort of textiles convention. I don't know, that brings in $1 billion to the city, or Comic-Con, right? And then, Vegas, New York, that they're used to these events all the time. Kansas City, not. It'll be a week's worth of events, if not longer, leading up to it. With the athletes, with the teams there, with just parties and events going on around the draft that lead up to it. The NFL, I mean, look, it's the season might only be it's actually like half of the year now if you count when training camp starts, when the Super Bowl ends. But they're good at spreading it all out to where there's never really a day of the year that goes by without any sort of NFL news, with the Combine, which is a 7 to 10 day long event. Now at this point, and then with free agency beginning, and then they announce the schedule at a certain time that takes up a couple 24-hour news cycles, and of course the draft is 3 days, but it'll be, for us in Kansas City, it's going to be literally months of work just kind of getting ready for it.
Like the Fan Fest, if they have something like that, I might take the boy.
Oh yeah, they have Fan Fest.
It'll be fun, but I just think back and when we had the All-Star game here, how much fun that was, and that was a 3 or 4 day thing. And I think I'm not in favor of maybe an 18-game season, but if it were to push the Super Bowl into President's Day weekend, not that I really work that much that time of year, it's my downtime, but I think there's a lot of people would enjoy that holiday right after that Monday off after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't want to go on later. I just played on a Saturday. How about that? Super Bowl Saturday.
I think it should be a Saturday, but
I mean, it's a difference of taking 14 days off between the conference championship games and 13. I think these guys will live.
Well, and sometimes the few times we've had a week in between, we've had better games, because 2 weeks sometimes gives it one coaching staff the ability to find that one little hole and exploit it.
But having been to really the last 4 Super Bowls, about 3 of the last 4, we talk about the magnitude of the draft. Take that times 10 for the Super Bowl. Well, I got down there in Miami and Tampa those 2 years with the Chiefs, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it now. I get now why they need 2 weeks to cram all this stuff in, because the game is just a small part of the Super Bowl experience. There are so many entities that glom on to the Super Bowl that require hours and hours and days of again, parties and events and things to do, and with the travel for the teams, it's I get why they take 2 weeks, because there's a lot to cram in there.
I'm sure that FTX party was pretty good last year.
I don't think I went to that.
That's the crypto one that had the
crypto one.
That had Larry David. I was like sitting there the other day and I'm like, who was the crypto Larry David commercial? And he's like, I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Somebody said the other day that when that thing crashed, it instantly became the greatest Super Bowl ad in history.
Yeah,
it was like prophetic, and it was just I mean, those were some of the best ads, and that's I think.
But I mean, the ad wasn't really prophetic. It was that like, oh, Larry David's always wrong.
Yes,
it's gonna be the biggest thing ever.
The best is the yes, everyone will vote, even the stupid people. It's like
that
or you go to the bathroom inside. We're not animals. That's hands down one of my favorite ones. So, well, as we wrap up high school football, we already got some coaching openings that have come about. Blue Valley North and Shawnee Mission East on that side. Both Coach Pummel and at Blue Valley North and Coach Hoover at Shawnee Mission East have stepped down. St. Joe Benton on the Missouri side looks like, and we're still on the outskirts, Lathrop made a change. They elevated a defensive coordinator. Corey Creason takes over that program. Todd Burke, who'd been at Summit Christian, I think, for the last 6-7 years, he's stepped down as well. And Todd Burke he's a veteran coach. He'd been in St. Louis for a long time. And I think he maybe had retired and come to Summit Christian doing the private school type thing. And they, and they had their first tough year in a while. They were not very good for the first time in a while. But Coach Burke has done a great job there. So that job's open. I think Southeast in Kansas City is open, but that's also a question. How many high schools will they have going into next year? Will Kansas City Central be closing? That's still kind of on the books there. So that might shake things up there. So that's kind of what's going on right now. And it's not what it was last year. Last year we had in the Kansas City Metro PrepsKC coverage area, there were 37 new head coaches
in the area.
In the area, and some of them were moving in between schools that caused openings, but 37. And I wonder, it's interesting because a few years back, coming out of the recession, like 2010, 2011, school districts didn't have as much money. So they didn't, it's not like a college job where you're paying off a contract, but if you've got a tenured teacher there and you decide to make a change, or that teacher says, I'm done coaching, you have to find an opening for them. If you don't have an opening for them, that doesn't necessarily, pretend bringing in a coach from outside, which a lot of times schools like to do. They like to bring in a new face or a new voice, and that's kind of how that goes. But 37 was last year, and that's coming off the pandemic, which changed a lot of people's perspectives on everything.
Like, how many teams do we have in our area? 130,
120ish is what I got.
So like about a third?
Yeah, almost a third. That's pretty. I mean, that's a lot, and then you add in another. I need to go back and kind of look over the last. How many have changed over in the last 4 or 5 years? because then you start to find out who's still around, and some guys,
and really, it is a domino effect, right? I mean, just kind of you get one opening that might create two more, right?
Yes.
And so on and so forth. It kind of multiplies there.
You get your fair share of assistants, who get moved up, and you get guys who are retired and, or just decided they're done. The 30-year head coach is a dinosaur. I think if you have someone who's your head coach for 10 to 12 years, I think that's a pretty good run. I think it's just a different era. I think coaches, the time that it takes to run a program, if you have a family, it takes away from your family. I mean,
and the whatever $1,800 extra you get for year,
I mean, it
always make it worth it.
I think it's it's changed some guys' perspectives and allowed a lot of new coaches that there was a lot of times where if you were I remember when I first started, you'd have guys becoming first year head coaches at like 44 and 45, and now we've got
now because that's old for the NFL. You got 28-year-olds and 30-year-olds in the NFL.
Now now you got head coaches that are 28, 29, 30. And not just at the smaller schools, because that's where it used to be. Like a Class 1 school would have a 29-year-old guy or a 26-year-old guy. I think I'd have to do the math on how old Greg Oder was when he was at Plattsburgh. He was probably 27, 28. His first few years, he was a Plattsburgh head coach before he moved over to Blue Springs South as the defensive coordinator. So you'll see those young guys at some of those Class 1 and smaller schools, and just because those are spots where you get a chance. But it's becoming a head coach is something that in my time I've talking to guys, no matter how prepared you think you are, no matter how much the coach you were with let you do, you're never fully ready for every little detail that goes into that, just getting ready to play that first game. And I think you can see, how coaches get better at that as the season goes on, and how their teams respond to that. And once they kind of get their feet under them a little bit and that kind of thing. And, the X's and O's sometimes are the easiest part of the gig.
I get it.
You can go coach a game or coach practice, that's one thing, but uniforms and practice schedules and, dealing, now you're dealing with all the other sports on who gets in the weight room here and there and all this, that kind of stuff. And so it's a lot of work. And I think that people are, it's not for everybody. I think there's a lot of guys who try it for 4 or 5 years and are like, yeah, no, I go back to be a coordinator, go coach my position and that kind of thing. And then there's some guys, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to be. And that's where they want to make their impact. So it'll be interesting to see what this year is like. I mean, so we replaced, Shawnee Mission East is a team that's won state championship. And, we have Blue Line North Shawnee Mission East. They've won state championships in the last 10, 11 years. So those are programs that have seen the top of the mountain. We'll see where they go for their next hires.
Yeah, and a lot of times, look, where we're situated creates hires to where, like, okay, the guy's got his tenure in Kansas, right? He's going to bounce over to Missouri and double dip, and vice versa. So a lot of times that happens as well. We'll see if that is part of any of the moves this year. Hey, some of the stuff making news here, KSHB 41 and everywhere this week, Dion, is independent school districts going to 4-day school weeks. How would that affect football, do you think? If at all.
Well, you're still going to practice on Monday, which is the day.
So Monday would be the third day off.
Yes.
So we're talking about what this would be: Truman, Lynn Chrisman, Florida Stage.
No, Florida Stage is its own district.
Oh, it's in Independence, but its own district.
Yeah, it's its own district.
Van Horn.
Van Horn. Those are the 3 high schools.
Okay.
That's the question I have, and really, it's for every sport. How do you get your kids? They're not running a bus. How do you get your kids there for practice? I mean, those are districts, and even, they're districts that a lot of times their numbers go up when the school year starts because those kids don't have an opportunity to get to school,
right?
And so those are questions they have. I've heard, talk of maybe playing, not necessarily football, but trying to play more games on Monday. Well, now you're kind of upsetting the apple cart with all the other conferences on how they normally like the schedule. Like volleyball in Missouri, I think I was just looking at some volleyball schedules, is generally a Tuesday, Thursday type deal, and then maybe an occasional Monday. But Tuesday, Thursday, I think soccer is generally a Tuesday, Thursday type deal. The tennises and the outside ones, I feel like the softballs, they will play every day of the week because when you are weather, forced, you're trying to get every game you can get in.
Well, I feel like I mean, once you count the sub-varsity teams, you're going to have some sort of game every Monday, almost of
Yes.
the school year, right? I mean, kind of, freshman team, JV football, C team, freshman, JV volleyball, right? JV cross country meets, all that. So not just varsity, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg there. Basketball, oh my gosh, all the teams you have to play on almost every day of the week.
I don't know. I don't know if the reasoning, I don't agree with it. I don't want my kid going 4 days a week. I think we're all kind of set up naturally in the way we are. I mean,
I'm ready to work 4 days a week, baby.
Well, I think everybody's ready.
Give me 4 10s.
Hey, look, I mean, I'm not talking about you and me. I worked at American Century and I did 4 10-hour days. I loved it. It was great. I had Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm not learning algebra. I was processing mutual fund accounts.
That sounds harder.
Well, it's widgets. It's basically making widgets. If I'm not there on Wednesday, does my knowledge of making widgets go down? As a worker, 4 days was great because I worked. It was actually an evening shift. It was a noon to 10 shift. I worked 4 days a week. On Wednesday, I had a full day that if I needed to get out and do stuff, I could play golf and that kind of thing. And I was single at the time, so yeah, it was great. But I don't know if I want my 12-year-old. He's got a couple classes that are A and B days. And that's a little for me off-putting because you have to try to remember, oh, we got homework tonight, but it's not due for 2 days kind of thing in certain classes. But I know there's a lot of schools that do that block scheduling and it's AB days and that's the way it goes. And so I know that's just a fact of life, but I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's I don't know. I just think I don't know if it's being done for the reasons they say it's being done for. I think that they have other issues in independence.
Yeah, I don't think for
if I'm a coach, I don't like it.
I bet coaches would have a lot of pushback too, because especially in sports like football, they love the routine. You've got that routine. When you got kids, I remember my kids, Mill Valley, I want to say the last 2 years, the 2 games where they came out like the most sluggish were those days where it was the fall break Friday, right? They didn't play Friday. So they're not at school, they're not doing the normal routine. You try to, still do the weights and all that stuff at the program, but both times they came out. One was that the only time Mill Valley's been just kind of beat by a lot of points the last couple of years was Lawrence Free State. They have school that day, travel just kind of sluggish. So I bet you do it whether it's for the best or not. I bet you have a lot of coaches pushing back on it. Well,
I just think, and if you just focus in on football, it's such a routine sport. And to keep those kids, pointing in the right direction. I think of a couple just different stories that I heard. And when Kevin Keaton took over St. Joe Benton, the kids went home on road games and home games. They went home and, some kids wouldn't come back. Yeah. They had a game that night. They just didn't, forget to come back.
Yeah.
And so they switched that up. They switched that up.
Some schools are way more fortunate than others when it comes to, the ability just to get kids to practice.
Yeah. And then talking with Clint Bone over at Lawrence, and I said something about some of the road trips or going to the western side of the bracket, and he said what he had discovered in his first year was that he really enjoyed being on the road in high school because you control him from minute one. He goes he didn't understand the luxury of playing college ball where you go throw him in a hotel room night before a game, even in town, and so that's one of those guys. I will say this. I'm not a KU guy, but getting to know Clint Bone in the last couple of years and just having the conversations with him, with his perspective coming from D1 college, coming down to the high school level and now coaching his sons, it's really been enlightening. And getting to know him has been he's a great source of just different, coming at it from a different angle, because a lot of the high school guys have all the same experience.
I'll look at Andy Reid. His record's better on the road these last several years than it has been at home with the Chiefs. And I think there's a lot to that. When you kind of get them there's less distractions. They're kind of bottled up in their meeting rooms and the hotel ballroom where you're going over stuff, and then their hotel rooms. And I think there's something to that. That's the next step in high school football. Right?
Hotels night before the game.
I'll say this: Northwest, you're going down to Gardner. We're going to get there Thursday night.
Well, I mean, when
that's all. I was talking with my brother and my sons recently about, like, in lots of parts of Kansas and Missouri, a road trip is 2 hours.
Oh yeah,
right. You're leaving early from school. you're getting back late at night. That's how it was for myself growing up. I mean, there were a few teams within like 30 or 40 minutes, but most of the time it's over an hour, some beyond 2. We're blessed here at Kansas City for the most part, especially these big schools. It's just right down the street. I mean, the longest meet might go 35 minutes, but what is that? And so every at least your whole schedule is confined into one kind of smaller footprint.
Well, and we've seen in the postseason in Missouri, two of the last I don't know 5 years, a Kansas City team has had to go one. I think Odessa probably wins the battle. They went to Kennett. And as I was trying to find someone to cover the game
going down southeast,
I noticed that it would be easier to find a stringer out of Kentucky. Memphis or Kentucky. And the fastest way to get to Kennett was to drive through a part of Arkansas. You had to leave Missouri and come back into Missouri, and then Fort Osage went to Gerardo this year, and they practiced in Jackson. They went down on they played a Saturday game. They went on Friday, practiced in Jackson, Missouri on Friday afternoon, and then got to Gerardo and. They both those teams did very well. They won quite easily. They did a good job on that. But you see that those Saturday games a lot of times. I mean, if you're going all the way across, I mean, it's Fort Osage to Gerardo is not a straight shot. I mean, it's not like you're Blue Springs to Francis Howell. You're just scooting down in 3 hours on I-70 or even CBC. I know Blue Springs played several Friday night games. At least Summit North it played at DeSmet and at CBC the last 2 years. And Jamar Mosey told me, he said, we stay on our Friday. We keep going. We're not getting up on Saturday and driving. We're not doing that. And so, that was something that he said. They did it for CBC and then they went ahead and did it for DeSmet. Yeah. So travel thing is all about routine. And look,
maybe, once you get used to a 4-day schedule, maybe that turns into a routine and you figure out that one.
I just don't know. I don't know if it'll catch on. Maybe it will. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of groupthink among superintendents.
We were jealous. Dexter, Kansas. I'm from Caldwell, Kansas. Dexter, Kansas started in high school, a 4-day school week, and we were so upset. We hated it. But I think they did Friday through Sunday off. Because I remember going to play basketball there, and I knew friends there, and they were saying that, I've just been sitting at home all day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Friday would be a natural thing for me. And there's, there are a lot of parents who don't work on Fridays, or work half days on Fridays. And and my mom worked for the government. And to her, she had every other Friday off because she worked longer days through those 2 weeks. I could tell you my sister works for Army Corps of Engineers. She has another government job. I could love to tell you that she does that, but she works from home as much now as she does in the office. So I don't even know what her schedule is anymore. So
listen, I have Fridays off. I work Sunday through Thursday. I have Fridays off. And whenever I call my buddies to golf, my buddies who have real jobs of sales, mortgage guy, lawyer, they can always play on Friday. they're like, oh yeah, I'll get out of the office. I'm not even in today. So I'm jealous of those.
Well, and I'll say this: in the summertime, all you got to do is get out on the I-70 at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's more traffic than there is at 4.
I think you're right. Yeah, that's the new rush hour.
Yes, it's noon. If you're in the office past noon, I'm not really sure what's going on. It was funny when
with technology, we're more efficient now, right? We get more stuff done.
I had a conversation with my best friend from high school who lives in Richmond, Virginia, a proud Virginia Cavalier. He graduated from there. I just happened to look at a bracketology on ESPN, Joe Lenardi's bracketology, and he had Virginia as the 1 seed in the Midwest, which means they would play at T-Mobile.
Yeah.
In the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. So I emailed.
Well, Virginia doesn't always make it.
No. Well,
even the round of 32, Dion.
Yes.
If they are.
But they did the next year win the whole thing.
They did. That was such a strange dichotomy.
Yeah. So I texted him and said, hey, March 24th, 26th, you gotta go. And then opening days on the, stay the week and go to opening day. He did that. He came in 2019 and it was just, he wanted to go to some basketball games and it worked out. Opening day was the Thursday before and he'd never been to the Royals opening day. And so he had come in for a World Series game. He'd been here for other games over time, just coming and visiting me. And he had been to a World Series game. So no, it'd be great. I'd love to see some Virginia down at the T-Mobile Center. And I've got gear. So I can gear up for that. I've got plenty of gear. I've got my hat. I got a sweatshirt. I got a pullover. I got a long sleeve orange T-shirt that's got the Virginia in blue and white across the front. I've got a Virginia baseball T-shirt. My son has a Virginia baseball T-shirt. He has a Virginia hat like mine. So we are. we are ready to go. I tried to get him when they were in the College World Series final. When they made that final thing, I said, hop on a plane, be in Kansas City by noon. I will pick you up and we can make it to Omaha and we'll go because my wife's uncle, tickets are not a problem for me I've got a good connection for Omaha tickets. So that's a great thing there. And I've been to one. I've been to the.
I'm putting that away here, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I forget it. Oklahoma State occasionally.
Games. Yeah.
Occasionally gets up there. Missouri, had a run there for a while, 15 years ago, but that is over. The whole Scherzer, days back in the day. I remember that. We were hosting Super Regionals, getting beat every time. Still our only national championship. 1954
Norm Stewart was part of it.
Norm Stewart, 1954.
1954. He's only won one baseball. It was 1959, I believe.
Coming third, I think, in wrestling. I think that's the best we've done there.
Yeah.
Third one year.
Yeah.
We're real good at getting to the top, getting in the top 5 in wrestling and then not really closing it out, though. The Penn States and the
wrestling, I feel like, is one of those sports. It's hard to you going in. Pretty much the top 4 seeds are going to be the top 4 seeds. It's hard to upset. It's hard to have a 9 seed make a run to a championship. It
is
pretty much cut and dry. All right, Dion, I've got real work to do. You got another trip to Target, I'm sure, to make.
Well, I think I'm done. I'm actually we'll probably get this out. You'll probably be watching this on Friday morning. I'm doing some Spectrum work, some high school basketball. Got North Kansas City Staley girls and Oak Park Staley boys. So some good Northland basketball. Looking forward to that.
Tonight, right?
Yeah, it's tonight.
Staley boys, number 1 team in the city.
Yes, very, very good team. They won the Blue Springs tournament last week, handled Blue Springs South, and then who they beat? Fort Smith, Arkansas, or something, or Bentonville, Arkansas in the final. Nice. But no, Staley's a good team. Oak Park, I think, is ranked number 2.
Are they really
in Class 6? Yeah, so I think there are some rankings. So yeah, North Kansas City's got a lot of good basketball playing right now, and it's Staley's Staley, and I know that one of my favorite girls players, Lizzie Bain, who plays for Staley. We did 4 games up there last year and had one of the best moments of the entire high school basketball season. They were in a game with St. James and they were down by 2 coming down. She's got the ball standing out on the elbow, and I've got a kind of direct look into her line, standing underneath the basket, in her eyes like that. And the clock's winding down, and she just look on her face was, for lack of a better word, F it, I'm shooting it. And she just freaking drained it and hit the shot. They won the game. Nice. I mean, it was just she had that type of game where she was hitting all the shots down the stretch, and then she was like, "Screw it, I'm winning it right here." Yeah. And that's what she did. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing some good basketball out there on Spectrum and doing the sideline for that. And it's gonna be a good night. And then we'll take a break for Snap Tackle Pod for the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And then we will reconvene.
We'll see if there's like 100 of you that watch this, then I'll come back. If it's only like 99 or below, I don't know if it's worth my time.
I think we get 100. I think we're 100 right out of the box.
Okay, good.
So I think we're good there. But no, we will scour there. I'm sure there'll be some changes, some more coaching changes over the break. I will sniff around on playoff changes that are being discussed on the Missouri side, and maybe in the Kansas side as well. We can kind of talk about where some of those things lie, because by the time we get back, I know in Kansas they'll be going to another session of the legislature, which means they can actually change a bylaw for Keisha. Yeah, it literally takes an act of Congress to change a rule in Kansas.
It does. So that's not the way. I don't even know. It's not the way.
No, Misha votes on it. Member schools vote on it. It changes the way. Misha does have a new podcast that they launched last night. So I'm curious to see how that is. I know the people at Misha. Jason West does a good job over there, but I'm curious to see if it's going to be a pat themselves on the back, or if they'll have people who will ask real questions, not looking to tear them down, but to, kind of get an inner workings of how decisions are made and things like that. So yeah, happy holidays to everyone. Enjoy your holidays and your families and and all that. And we will have all Metro football on PrepsKC, and then all state football coming up. If we can get a quorum, that's always the fun part for all state football, is trying to find the guys. But Missouri all state football coming up on the next week. So we'll have a little bit of sprinkling of stuff.
We'll have something else to talk about that.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, for Dion and Mick, we'll see you next time on Snap Tackle Pod.